existence are so out there that even talking about it seems to open up a pointless dialogue a lot of the time. And what I mean by that is that our perceptions of the world are so vastly different from one another that there's no consensus reality, as I talked about in a video the other day. Yet, there are some inherent things that we share. And I think that one of those things that we share is the realization that there is no us and them. And I mentioned a book the other day. It was from Michael Talbot. It's called The Holographic Universe. And I read it about 10 years ago. And it really opened my eyes to the possibilities of what is and what could be. And realized that it's okay for us to believe in our hearts over our minds, because our hearts are just as conscious. And I'm going to try to explain myself without sounding like I'm delusional, but I'm sure to some it will come across that way either way. The studies in quantum physics have brought up more questions than answers. The idea that an electron is not a solid object, where you know that. An electron is just a potential in a cloud. And once it's observed, the waveform collapses. And an analogy they give is it's akin to rolling a bowling ball down a lane that's covered with powder, talcum powder. And as the ball's rolling and you're watching it, you see it creating a line down the lane. Then you turn away for a second and look away. Then you look back at the ball and it's making a line. But the time between, it was a wave. It makes a wavy pattern. It's just the symbol, the metaphor for the idea that nothing exists until it collapses into a particle. So, this is something that physics knows for a fact. These are things that we can't explain, so therefore it's put on the back burner as something that we may figure out one day, or that we don't understand the principles to, or even worse, something that just doesn't fit our current paradigm of belief. But these are things that each individual has to seek out, and that's the point I'm trying to make in this video. If you really want to know what's going on out there, you can't rely on experts of any one field. You have to be able to listen to every person who talks, because there are scientists out there who say the material reality is what we live in and that's all there is. There are scientists out there who say, no, we have a spiritual side and that we're all connected on an ether plane. The term and the definition of scientist does not mean authority. It just means that they are a scientist. And likewise, religious leaders, in the same way, all have their own opinions. Every religion, every political view, every scientific view is corrupted by the individual, because the observer, as being part of the experiment we're trying to study, makes it impossible to study. In other words, you can't study the whole jewel when you're just one facet. You can't see it all. So by getting a rounded view and looking at what everybody's saying about these things, we can start to see that there seems to be a division out there in physics about whether or not reality is even real. And what I found is a lot of these people who hear this, they use it as ammunition to build their own theories, yet don't research what it actually means. In other words, they will quote the double slit experiment, or talk about quantum nonlocality, or quantum entanglement, and pretend that they understand the underlying framework of how these things operate in order to fit their spiritual beliefs to say, aha, you see, because of this, then this is how ghosts operate. Or because of this, this is what prayer does, or this is what meditation does. And all of this is speculation, and at a point, we have to ask ourselves in our hearts, what do we feel? Now, I'm going to explain why I think that that's the most crucial element. Because there's one aspect to say, if you look within, you will find the truth. Yet, if you don't receive the consensus reality from those around you to confirm what you believe, then you may become delusional. And this is why science does what it does. We confirm other people's studies. The problem with this is that it seems like the person who's doing the study has an impact on the outcome of the study. A scientist who believes he will find nothing tends to find nothing. Another scientist who researches the same results will find something if they intend to find something. And this is because we're programmed to recognize patterns, but only if we want to, and to leave out what we don't want to see. We're very weak when it comes to being honest. One of the hardest, I should say, we're weak when it comes to being honest about what we've found or what we've learned, if it conflicts with what we already believe. And that's something I've found is my most crucial element of my learning experience, is to each day wake up and say, you know, tomorrow this may not be true, and that's fine. And one metaphor I heard for it, it's akin to a river and little eddies, or little turbulence areas within the stream. Our thoughts are like a river, and the ideas that we hang on to are like those little eddies. And some of them are stronger than others. They eventually disappear, but some of them hang on for a long time. It's like the red spot on Jupiter is another example. These things are held together, but we don't have to. We can unravel them. We can continue the flow by stopping hanging on to something. The only reason an eddy would appear in our lives, or something that conflicts with our lives, is because we've noticed it, because it's conflicting with our life. If it's something that works in our lives, we seldom step back to say, how is this thing that works for me working for me? And I feel like when talking about these subjects, I'm very careful not to use, I try not to use even the word quantum, because it's become a throw around word, just like the word troll or anything else. People use it to describe anything that they want it to. Because on the quantum realm, and here's the thing that people need to understand, once we get down to the atomic realm, everything falls apart and we don't understand how it works. It doesn't behave within the laws of the paradigm we understand. So all of the laws we use to explain the universe don't work on the quantum level. And it's not too far of a leap to believe that the macro level also works on a way that's unpredictable or unexplainable, yet does have a pattern and a system. Mass is not mass. Mass is merely energy. Mass is various fields of energy that seem to be held together by something. If you look at the map, the framework of the cosmic dark matter map, it looks very similar to the way the neurons look in the mind, the way that the interconnectedness plays. But we talk about the speed of light. Einstein, one of his biggest issues was trying to reconcile the idea that things can go faster than light. And that's exactly what happens with, quantum entanglement. We have two atoms that are effectively working at the exact same time on the same level. If one's this way, then the other one's the other way. And no matter how far apart they're split, that's that same result. So what we find through looking at that is that light is irrelevant to information. Okay? That the universe can very well flip a switch and put out a different frequency and allow people to understand things, let's say, on another level. So perhaps there are times where the universe pushes its thoughts forward and allows evolution to take place. Evolution is something that, if a person really believes that space is just by chance and everything's just here, there's no universal consciousness, there's just random matter, that thinking doesn't hold up to any scrutiny whatsoever with the modern findings of physics, which is the unpredictability of matter, the idea that our decisions are made before we even make them, that we register people who are shown a screen and they're supposed to choose right or the left picture, and when hooked up to a monitor, there's a small part of the brain that activates depending on which arm you're intending on moving, and that comes up about 6 seconds before they actually make the decision. That's before the picture is even shown. It means that time is irrelevant. So time is irrelevant, and space is irrelevant. And there's not a lot that I can really add to that. It just becomes the realization that all borders dissolve and we become one. That at a certain point you realize that the line between you and others doesn't really exist. That we really are one entity. And it's such an easy thing to say, but so difficult to express without sounding like a spiritual mumbo-jumbo. Because it's something that I've come to conclusions on through my research of science, not my desperation to cling to a religion or a belief system. If I saw the world as a material place and I could see no other chance for, the ability for us to communicate with one another psychically or otherwise, then I might be willing to say, hey, maybe it's all just by chance. But my heart speaks volumes compared to my mind. And so my camera is almost out of space, so I'm going to go ahead and erase another video, and then I'm going to continue this one because I'm not